What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. For the entirety of the Switch's life, there's been one game that's gone in and out of the rumor mill, and many people were trying to figure out if it would ever make the jump to the platform. Well, now it technically has, mostly though thanks to the community, but we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about reports pointing towards Sony making another major acquisition, and then we also have Fallout to go over once again because it hit another milestone on Steam that probably has Microsoft kicking themselves that Fallout 5 isn't coming out anytime soon. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with some unfortunate news surrounding Little Big Planet 3. Now, there have been some issues that have been going on for like the last 5 or 6 months. It's been a little while where the servers were not working correctly at all. And now Sony has come back with an update that people weren't exactly hoping to hear. This posted up over on their website, where it says Little Big Planet 3 under decommissioned servers. It says, due to ongoing technical issues which resulted in the Little Big Planet 3 servers for PS4 being taken offline temporarily in January 2024, the decision has been made to keep the servers offline indefinitely. All online services, including access to other players' creations for Little Big Planet 3, are no longer available. User-generated content stored locally on your PS4 will remain available. Any new UGC you've created can be played on your PS4, but not shared. Offline features such as the campaign will remain playable, but obviously with Little Big Planet in general, the ability to share your creations online was a major portion of that game and what made it so fun and unique. Now I mentioned 6 months, okay, since January, so like 3 or 4 months, but still, it was something people were hoping would get an update in the opposite direction. Like, hey, it's back. It was an issue we were looking at and we figured it out, and now the servers are back up and you can start sharing your stuff. But unfortunately, no, Sony moving on from Little Big Planet 3, and they probably saw how many were playing it and said, you know, probably not necessarily worth our time and investment to figure out the issue here. We'll just kind of decommission and move on. So end of an era there for Little Big Planet fans, as 3 now being put on the shelf. Also, we do have some good news though when it comes to online content being made available again, as that Super Smash Bros. 3DS DLC situation has now been resolved. If you're unfamiliar, actually this was a Reddit thread we took a look at before, saying that previously purchased Smash Bros. 3DS DLC is no longer re-downloadable, and that was something that had happened as like the Wii U and the 3DS, all that was going down with the online play. Something happened with the DLC to where it didn't have it in your library, or at least the ability to download, as there was a check that was sort of in the way before you could download it. But as of April 17th, the shop is back and you can now re-download previously bought DLC. So great news here. Obviously, the idea was brought up that it could have just been a mistake or just something that basically got tripped as Nintendo was shutting down servers for online play, and seems to be the case here. So good news if you were someone who was concerned because you were unable to download your DLC for the 3DS, it is available again. Oh, and it looks like a game that was previously just available on the PlayStation in terms of consoles will be making the jump to Xbox. This is based on an ESRB rating that did pop up, which we can see it here. It's for Kena Bridge of Spirits. Now, this has been rated for the Xbox Series X and S. It came out, like 3 years ago or so, back in 2021, and I did enjoy the game. I mean, it was kind of an action-adventure style game, but I like the visuals on it. I think the only issue I had was with the parry window was a little weird, and it took some getting used to, but that seems to be happening more and more with some of these different action-adventure games that have parry. It's like all the windows are so different, it seems now. But anyway, I did enjoy this game from Ember Lab, and it's, I guess, cool to see them also be able to get it on another platform, even though it's years later. Just does seem like it's kind of out of nowhere because it has been so long. But hey, why not? If you can get it over to the Xbox, just more people to be able to sell it to. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a game that seems to have made the jump sort of to the Switch, and it's one that's been in the rumor mill for so long. Since the system came out, at least that first year when the Switch was out, this game was being rumored constantly, and that is Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, the source code for GTA 5 leaked out at the end of last year. So people were looking at it and like, okay, we can go through this. People, of course, were going to come up with all different kinds of PC cheats and trainers and stuff. Others were talking about maybe porting this to different things, which we have seen from different decompilations that have happened of older retro titles where that'll be completed. And then that code can be moved over and ported natively to different platforms like on PC, something there. But in this case, it appears this source code has enabled people to attempt to port GTA 5 to the Switch. In fact, we can see this is posted up over on X. This is from Superstar South, who says, obviously you want to know at least see how far we got. The recording is not as smooth when compared to hardware video output. So Take-Two and Rockstar have been very, very strict, very serious, obviously, about this source code leak. So I'm not sure how they react to even this video being posted up. I will just show you the tweet and I will link to it down below if you want to go and take a look at the video in action. And basically it's the opening of the game where you're robbing a bank and kind of out on the run before it jumps you ahead to kind of follow the rest of the story with Michael and Franklin and Trevor. But in this case, it is playing. It's just not playing well necessarily. Now, some were mentioning overclocking the Switch and doing other things. It probably would just need more time to optimize and get it all set up. So this just is kind of an early port and build for the Switch. And it's funny because this is a situation of let's see if we can do it just to see if we can do it. And I am still shocked that Rockstar and Take-Two never pushed it over. I think there were a few hurdles in the way, specifically I think storage size on the cartridge was one of them. And then also, I wonder if just GTA Online was kind of having an issue just being on Nintendo's platform. Seems like there were some logistical things behind the scenes, and it did not come down to GTA 5 just being able to run on the system. I mean, it ran on the PlayStation 3 and the 360, and we've seen many ports from that era go to the Switch and just run outright better, as you would expect for the Switch. However, I still can't necessarily put out of my mind that Rockstar and Take-Two would just randomly show up with GTA 5 at some point for the system, like right at the end of its life as we're seeing now, or maybe on the next platform. Because the only thing with that is I feel like once GTA 6 comes out, there will be a new GTA Online component to it, and then they would sunset the old Grand Theft Auto Online because I mean it's a platform that's been around, like the game itself, as we're seeing these online modes being just platforms for more than 10 years. Like you feel like you want to move on to the new thing and also want to push people to the new thing. The best way to do that is to essentially sunset the old setup. So keep that in mind. That GTA Online's probably going away, which tells me that they would most likely look to maybe get GTA 6 and the new GTA Online on Nintendo's next platform. And that would be something. That would be one of those impossible ports, or ones that would certainly impress me if it got announced. But who knows? Maybe this GTA 5 project continues on, makes some serious headway, and in a year or two, you can download and load up GTA 5 on a modded Switch. We'll see. Next up, let's talk about reports pointing towards Sony making a major acquisition, or at least reports pointing towards them putting a serious bid in for Paramount. Now, I saw this pop up and I thought, that's interesting because I'm trying to think of what Paramount exactly has that Sony wants. But first, let's take a look. This posted up by Reuters, where they say Sony Pictures Entertainment and Apollo Global Management are discussing making a joint bid for Paramount Global. According to a person familiar with the matter, the companies have yet to approach Paramount, which is in exclusive deal talks with Skydance Media, an independent studio led by David Elson, though some investors have urged Paramount to explore other options. The competing bid, which is still being structured, would offer cash for all outstanding Paramount shares and take the company private, the source said. Now, that would make things obviously a bit more straightforward if you're just showing up or it's going to buy all outstanding shares, all cash offer, rather than having to finance and figure out that sort of thing. If you have cash, it just makes things a million times easier with these large acquisitions. But we can see this as well. Sony would hold a majority stake in the joint venture and operate the media company and its library of films, including such classics as Star Trek, Mission Impossible, and Indiana Jones, and television characters like SpongeBob SquarePants, according to the source. Obviously, this is a long play, so they can do PlayStation All-Stars and have SpongeBob SquarePants as one of their intellectual properties. I think looking at this one, it's more or less Sony just kind of building up their streaming side or their just multimedia side, as they have tied that in with things like PlayStation Plus, and it's just a way to add more value. But really, Paramount also being in talks with other suitors. I'm sure Sony looking at this like, can we make a play? Can we partner up with Apollo and maybe we can split off some of the TV properties? Because Paramount also has like TV deals and that sort of thing and ownership there. Can we split this up as we can get some more of the intellectual properties that would aid our streaming services? Because, well, as many of these streaming platforms have done, Paramount just burns cash hoping to be profitable at some point. Like, you can see this is posted up. This is over on IndieWire, pointing out that Paramount lost $490 million from streaming in final 2023 quarter. Now, they have been growing and adding more and more subscribers, so they are hoping to be profitable by 2025. And in that case, Sony might be looking at this as more of a long play on that end. But also, like I said, just to kind of bolster where the future is going now, which is all these streaming platforms competing. If Sony can just add more to their library of really titles that they have, they mentioned Star Trek, Indiana Jones, but then also intellectual properties as well. I mean, for them, it's probably worth I believe Paramount's valued somewhere in the 8 to 10 billion range. It's probably worth that for Sony, but we'll see how this goes. As again, there are other suitors that are vying for Paramount now. So we'll see if this is an offer that becomes more serious over the next week or two. Next up, let's talk about Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, as it is out actually tomorrow, and it is dropping into Game Pass day one. And I think that's where I'm going to experience it, at least for the first time, just to try this game out, because reviews did come out over the weekend and they are incredibly mixed. Like it all ends of the spectrum here. I think on the Switch, on Metacritic, it was like a 54 or something, but then on the PlayStation, it was in the 80s. Really, it was just all over the place with some of these different reviewers. But the best way we can really gauge it, if we look at OpenCritic, where it takes all the reviews and just kind of mashes them together, it is currently sitting at a 77, and 59% of critics recommend it. It's interesting to see how far apart all reviewers are on this thing. Now, Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, we were looking at this as a Suikoden successor, and that is kind of how it's being painted with a lot of these reviews, and it really comes down to, did you like Suikoden? Either back in the day, or if you've played it since its release, did you like it then? Because if so, you'll probably like Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. Okay, well, for me, that's something I'm at least interested enough in to load it up. And I will admit, Game Pass does kind of remove some of that risk of just outright buying the game immediately. If I do like the game in Game Pass, I'll probably also look to another platform maybe to pick it up physically. But as of now, I am a little hesitant, I'll say, because I also saw through many of the reviews, as there are like 4 or 5 of them now for the Switch, like performance seems to be a problem there too. And then apparently the PC version looks sharper and runs even better than what we see for the PS5, to where people are wondering if the PS5 and Xbox version are like just up-res Switch version. It's very, very weird and scattershot right now. So we'll keep an eye out for a day one patch maybe for it, but let me know if you're thinking about picking up Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes and if the reviews kind of caught you off guard a bit. And then our last bit of news, let's talk about Fallout, as the series has absolutely taken the internet by storm, and it's very, very good. I enjoyed it quite a bit, about 8 episodes, and I do recommend, if you have Amazon Prime, you have Amazon Video, give it a look and see what you think. Stick with it for at least the first 2 or 3 episodes, because then it really starts to get good and try to basically pulls you through the rest of the episodes. But it appears it is indeed having an effect, as we kind of expect anyway, on just the Fallout interest for video games, which if we take a look over on Steam, Fallout 4 had a massive weekend. I mean, it hit a peak concurrent count over the last 24 hours of 164,190 players. Guess what? We have to go back 9 years or so for a concurrent player count that high. Basically, a month or two after launch was less than this. And it is kind of a shame if you're Microsoft, because look, the Fallout 5 is not coming out anytime soon. Apparently, the way it's going to work, Elder Scrolls 6 will be coming out, then Fallout 5 will come out. So I don't even know. Fallout 5 might be end of next generation. That's how far out it might be. So it is a shame that it's not gonna be ready anytime soon. They do have that update coming, but people are already picking up Fallout 4 as it is. I guess the update will at least have people going back to it, and maybe it'll spike interest again. But Fallout 4 is like $5 on all different platforms, and of course it's on Game Pass on the Xbox. If you had Fallout 5 right now that maybe came out in place of like Starfield and it's still at full price, that I think would push more people more over the edge to get Game Pass, because it starts, that value proposition is there. It's like, oh, okay, $70, or I sign up for Game Pass and it's like $18 a month and I get all this other stuff, including the other Fallouts. So that's kind of, it's tough because I feel like no one, well, I should say no one, but I feel like Microsoft didn't necessarily expect the reception that they got here from the Fallout series, at least to this level. I mean, it turned out way better than I expected for it. And that's great, because now I'm looking forward to season 2, but I'm also sitting here playing Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, and I guess I'll check out Fallout 4 when that update hits. It would have been really cool to have like Fallout 5 even coming out later this year, after how interesting this Amazon series has been. Also, side note, there's been a big conversation that's popped up now around which Fallout to go to first. And I will say, Fallout 3, while people are like looking at, okay, it's like one of the old Fallout games technically now, still looks really good on the Xbox Series, 60 frames, visually speaking, still looks kind of like a 360 game, but it's smoothed out, and in terms of resolution, it looks much, much better now than it did back on the 360. So I wouldn't scoff much at Fallout 3. I think it's still an awesome title to check out, even jumping into Fallout for the first time. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, how do you feel about modern gaming right now? So I ran a poll on X, and it got quite the conversation going about just, are we in a rut for gaming? How do you feel right now? And I'm looking at this YouTube poll, and 60% of people said, it's okay, I'm just playing games here and there. 16% say it's great, there's a lot I'm excited about. Then 25% just say it's boring. The industry is in a bit of a rut. So only like 16% of people are just really excited for what's going on right now. And maybe I'll run this poll again towards the end of the year, especially if we have Sony announcing some games coming up, I assume at some sort of event coming up. We have Xbox with some sort of event happening in June. I feel like Nintendo, by the end of this year, will know about their next system, some launch titles. And maybe at that point, there will be more excitement, because I feel like currently the 3 platform holders are in this kind of phase right now where they're all either working to set up events to announce stuff, or in Nintendo's case, between console generations. So maybe in a few months, there'll be a lot more excitement, and that 16% will be a bit higher. And we'll finish up with the comments of the day. We'll start with this one. It's from Rick, who says, I remember when I was excited when the Blu-ray player first released. I ended up with a PS3 and brought my life back to video games. Blu-ray was cool, but I will tell you, the DVD was like world-changing for people, because for me anyway, I thought it is magic, right? Because the VHS, you had to rewind it, and people would have those rewinders on top of their TV or next to their TV to make sure it rewound really, really fast. The VCR took a while, because you had to take it back to the video rental store. But the DVD, you didn't have to do that. It was like, you don't have to rewind it, and there were menus, and it looked great on the old CRT. It was that moment where you started to get these movies on discs. That was a big deal. But Blu-ray, that was pretty cool, just because of kind of that home movie theater experience with the higher quality video and that sort of thing. And of course, the PS3 playing directly into that. That was a good time too. And then we'll go to a comment from the members video. This is posted up by Deflated Badger, who says they got rid of games in big box stores over here in the UK, what feels like a couple of years ago now. I have to travel an hour to get to the nearest store that actually sells physical games. What a time to be alive. Yeah, the days of going into stores and browsing on a whim for different games, kind of just discovering, I feel like those days are just behind us now. I mean, the golden era was when you would go to the rental store and you would just pick out games, just like, okay, I'll grab that for the weekend and see what happens. You don't know anything about it. You're relying completely on the box art and then the stuff on the back, like the tries to sell it to you, or if it's a cartridge, just on the label and what's there, which 9 times out of 10 did not represent at all what you ended up playing on your Super Nintendo or your Nintendo 64 or even on your PS1. But it was a simpler time, really. A time where people weren't just yelling at each other all the time on X. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Whether it's Sony apparently in talks to buy Paramount, what do you think that'll do for them in the long run? And then what about Nintendo with GTA 5 being ported to the system by the community? Do you think Rockstar and Take-Two will ever move GTA 5 over officially, or could they have plans for GTA 6 on Nintendo's next system. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.